Scottish Parliament is called Holyrood. It was founded back in 1999 after the signing of the Scotland Act. The Parliament building is pretty awesome, and it was only 10 times over budget and 3 years late to build, but we got there, and since getting there we've done some great stuff. Equal marriage, the smoking ban, and of course free prescriptions, eye care, dental treatment and education, despite Westminster not bothering to provide any of that to the rest of the UK. Go Scotland. But it's not only our policies that tend to be better than Westminster, our voting system is too. Westminster uses a system called first past the post, so in each constituency or area in the UK, we each get one vote. Those votes are counted up and whoever got the most votes wins. And that seems like a fair way to do it until you actually think about it more. Because it leads to situations where somebody can be elected despite only having 25% of support from the entire community. It's just that the other votes were split between other parties and were lower. Another way of looking at that is 75% of that area do not want that candidate to represent them. The Westminster system is completely undemocratic. The Conservative Party in power now, who have so far managed to rack up more debt than every Labour government in the history of the UK, have only got 36.7% of the vote in the UK, meaning that the majority of folk here do not want a Conservative government. But we're stuck with it because of the poor voting system at Westminster. I should add that in Scotland, the Conservatives only got 15% of the vote, making it even more undemocratic that they have any say here, but hey, we did vote to stay a part of the UK on account of those shared values or something. So to create a semi-proportional parliament, we use a system called the additional member system, or specifically, a version of it called the D'Hondt method. Doesn't matter what it's called though, the point is that instead of getting one vote, we get two. A constituency vote and a regional vote. We have two votes instead of one, so that we can have a semi-proportional system that was built to encourage parties to better work together, rather than it becoming two parties constantly fighting back and forward like in Westminster. Here's how it works. The Scottish Parliament has 129 seats in it. In order for any party to have a majority, they need to command 65 of those seats. Out of the 129 seats, 73 of them are elected using your constituency vote. The constituency vote is for your local area or constituency. So let's say we're in Glasgow South, because I am. You want to vote for me, a sensible choice, I should add. You use your constituency vote for that. In fact, a majority of you vote for me, which elects me as a member of the Scottish Parliament or MSP, using the same system as Westminster, the first past the post system. Thank you. Now, as we discussed, the first past the post system is undemocratic. That's where your other vote comes in. The remaining 56 seats out of the 129 are elected through the regional list vote. Scotland is made up of 8 regions: Central Scotland, Glasgow, Highlands and Islands, Lothian, Mid Scotland and Fife, North East Scotland, South Scotland and West Scotland, and each of those regions are made up of between 8 to 10 constituencies. The Glasgow region is made up of 9 constituencies, and I've just been elected in the Glasgow South constituency. I've also been elected in the rest of the constituencies in Glasgow, except for Rutherglen, because they're idiots. They've elected Mark. Mark. So now on to the regional vote. This time you aren't really choosing a candidate, you're choosing a party. So the list vote comes in. These are going to elect 7 additional members in this region, and here's how. Glasgow is made up of 9 constituencies. The Stephen Payton party got 8 of them. The Mark party got 1. Because of Rutherglen. Why? Now what happens is each party's list vote is divided by the number of MSPs they've already elected through the constituency vote plus 1. I got 8 MSPs, so my share of the list vote is now divided by 9. Mark's party, because he got 1 MSP, is now divided by 2. Now we start assigning seats. The top of the list is currently the Labour Party, so they get the first list MSP. They now have 1 MSP, meaning that their list vote is now divided by 2, and the order of the list is readjusted. This puts the Conservatives on top, so they get the next seat, and they in turn are divided by 2, and the list is readjusted. This continues on and on, with the list being readjusted as each new MSP is elected until all 7 seats are filled. So as you can see, a party that's done really well in the constituency vote is much less likely to get a regional seat, so that Holyrood remains balanced. This happens in every region until the Stephen Payton party gains a majority, I become First Minister, unite the clans, end world hunger, and pass legislation making all UKIP voters have to wear a t-shirt with the words "I'm a Dafty" written on them. Then again, they are polling at about 1 to 4% of the population in Scotland, so that would make a UKIP voter about as rare as a unicorn. But not nearly as cool. And that's how the additional member system works. But that's not where we end. You see, when the Scottish Parliament was founded back in 1999, it was decided that the additional member system could be used to create a parliament where no one party could wholly dominate the parliament, and would mean that the diverse voices from all of Scotland would be represented. something that the Westminster system doesn't allow. A few folk have raised that one of the main reasons would really be so that the Nationalist Party could never get a majority and bring about a referendum of Scottish independence, but that happened because the SNP became so popular that they basically broke the system put in place by gaining an outright majority back in 2011. And it seems that as 2016 approaches, they're about to break the system again, but in a different way. Back in 2011, the SNP managed to get a majority by getting MSPs elected in both the constituency vote and the regional vote. However, recent polling indicates that they may have become so popular that they might get a majority on the constituency seats alone. What this means for the list vote, however, is that the number of SNP MSPs elected in the list vote will drop drastically because they've done so well in the constituency vote. The average polling for January of this year when plugged into the Scotland Votes websites gives this result. Now this is where we are at before the campaigns of each party have even begun. What you can see is that with 45% of the regional vote, the SNP have only got 4 additional seats, while other parties with much less have gained more seats, such as the Conservatives getting 17% of the regional vote, resulting in 15 additional MSPs. If just 4% of those planning to vote SNP instead voted for the Greens on the regional vote, Labour and the Conservatives would actually lose seats to the Greens without the SNP losing a single seat. In fact, technically, if every single person planning to vote SNP on the regional list voted Green instead, the Greens would become the main opposition in Holyrood and the SNP would still be the majority party, with Nicola Sturgeon as our First Minister. That is how popular the SNP have become. Of course, that's never going to happen. However, it does raise a few questions. But look, in the end, I'm not going to tell you how to vote. That's up to you. If you want to see a Holyrood with an overwhelming majority of pro-left, pro-indie MSPs, then you could vote SNP and Green. If you want to see the maximum number of SNP MSPs, no matter who else gets in, then vote SNP. That's your decision. But I'd vote for policies, not parties. I'm not a fan of tactical voting, and that's not what I'm asking you to do. I'm only asking that you vote for whoever is talking about the kind of Scotland that you want to live in, and that you actually understand how our voting system works. That too. In the end, it's down to the parties out there to show you their vision of what Scotland can be.
Here we are with our live spreadsheet again. This one is set up for Central, and the model that we're going to input all our data into is Reality. But for those that don't know how this all works, there is another video that is on the video list. The details are in the description of this video for you to sit down and see exactly how this works. But in brief, the spreadsheet is set up quite simply that we input the regional constituency seats in here, the wins, and then we put in all the list votes here. It will then automatically populate the fields right the way across here, and all we have to do is look down where the zeros are, except there'll be votes in there this time, and we'll be able to actually decide who wins each round of the D'Hondt method. We will then go through, do it and split up the votes to 50% of the SNP votes going to the Greens, 50% of the SNP votes going to from the SNP to an Indie party, 25% of, 50% and 25 each going to Indie and Green, and then we'll finish up by taking 50% of the Green seats and giving them to the SNP, and then we'll analyse what the seats looked like at the end. We pick up our data for the spreadsheet from a Wikipedia site, which is basically just the site that has a lot of the results on it. I chose Wikipedia for all my things because it keeps it consistent. I have double checked over on other websites as well to ensure the integrity of this. So we'll just scroll down until we find the details for the Central region, which should be the first on the list when we get there. Dun. Nope. And it should be here. Yep, here we go. Right, so this is the Central region, and you can see straight up that, wow, that's great, isn't it? Isn't that cool? In the Central region, every single constituency seat was won by the SNP. That makes things very easy for us here because we only have to input a number 9 in there, and then the rest are all zeros. It's important that we do populate them with a 0 just for the integrity of the spreadsheet. Let's have a quick look now for what the list votes were. Right, on the same web page, if we scroll down a little bit, it will show us the actual spread of the regional seats. So Scottish Parliamentary Election 2016 party elected candidate seats and votes. Right, cool. So right here it will show you the actual votes all the way down and how many seats they won or lost. Notice that there is no Liberal Democrats here because they didn't win any seats. Okay, so they don't take those votes into account. Okay, so we are going to populate the list votes, and every time I push enter, you will see the detail coming across here. All right, as we go down. So let's get started. So the SNP were 129082, and then Labour. I'll click down to Labour was 67103. Tories were 43602, and the Greens were 12722. Now it's important as well that we do populate the blank spaces with oh god, what have I done there? I've just taken Labour's votes away. That would be nice, but we're not going to do that. Let's put the Labour votes back in. 67103. Brilliant. Cool. Right, so we can see straight away here that the votes have all been done with the D'Hondt calculation. The D'Hondt calculation being taking your regional votes and dividing them by your first past the post seats plus 1 will give you your amended votes. So let's look at here. SNP started with 129,082. They now have 12,908. That's going to be interesting as we go through this calculation. Right, let's see how this will go. Now every time I put a 1 beside the party that has actually won the seat, it will automatically adjust the votes going along here right the way to the very end to ensure that the D'Hondt method is worked properly. Okay, so let's start here. Who won this one? Well, that would happen to be Labour. Populate it. Adjusted votes. Round 2, that would be Conservatives. Round 3, that would be Labour. Round 4, well, that's going to be Labour again. Round 5, Conservative. Is that right? Yeah, it was. Round 6, Labour. And round 7 is the Conservatives. Right then. So, looking at this particular list, we can see on the day back in 2016, the SNP who won the popular vote ended up with 0 seats. Okay, and then through the D'Hondt calculation, through the 7 rounds, the Conservatives got 3 seats and the Labour Party got 4. Greens ended up with nothing at all. That is the actual results from the day, and you can see that from the web page as well. Let's go back and look at the web page. There you are. SNP actually lost 3 compared to 2007. Was it 2000? No, 2011. And Labour 4 seats, Conservatives 3 seats. Just as it says here, Labour 4, Conservatives 3. Right now, this is the interesting part. Let's do the same thing, but what we're going to do this time is we are going to give the Green Party 50% of the SNP votes. We will keep the same votes for all the other parties, exactly the same, except we will reduce the SNP votes by 50% and we'll give them to the Greens and see what happens at the end. Okay, looking down here, who won the first vote? That would still be Labour. No, it's the Greens this time. The Greens. Greens. Get one in there. Superb. Right, now who is the next one? Well, that would be Labour. And then the next one would be Tories. And then the next one would be the Greens. Is that right? Yep. Then the next ones would be Labour. Then the next ones would be Greens. And then the next ones, the final one, would be Labour again. Now then, completely different set of results this time. We have Conservatives only getting one. Yes. Sorry, that's a bit bad. Labour getting 3, but Greens getting 3 as well. So that is compared to on the actual day, if people voted SNP 1 and Greens 2, but only half of them did that, we would have had 3 more Indie seats in Holyrood. It still makes no difference for the SNP whatsoever. Let's now do it for a third party, sort of independence party. So we're going to do the same thing again. We will be taking the 50% of the SNP votes and giving them to an indie party down here. Let's run through this just now. So Labour won for the first round, and then the indie party, they win the second round. Then the Conservatives, they win the third round. Then Labour, close one though, close one, they win the fourth round. Then the Indie Party is the fifth round. And then, oh, this is so close as well. There we go, Labour Party in on the 6th. And who wins 21801, 21513? It is the Tories. Boom, shakalaka. Okay. Right. On this particular model, 2 Tories, 3 Labour, 2 Greens. 2 Indies. No Greens. No Greens at all. So this is actually one less Indie bum on the seat in Holyrood if we took half of the SNP votes in the list and gave them to another Indie party. This is in the central region, so if you're in central, this is actually quite valid towards yourself. Right, now what we're going to do is we're going to take 50% of the SNP votes, but split that in half, give half to Green and half to Indie. So that is like splitting the list votes to see what happens. Alright, so let's go for that. Labour's winning first again. Okay. Who is second? That will be the Greens. Who is, there we go, third round. That is the Conservatives. Then we have Labour again. Yep, definitely Labour again. Is that right? I'll just check. Yep. And then it will be the Indie Party. Okay, now this is pretty close. 22496, 22367. That is a Green win. And then another Labour win. Okay, so here we have again 4 Unionist seats and 3 Independent seats. But still, yeah, no SNP seats. Right, final model before we go to the conclusion. This is where we're going to take 50% of the Green seats and give them to the SNP. Alright, this would be the model where it would be SNP 1 and 2. And that's quite a generous way of saying it. You know, we're giving half of the Green vote to the SNP. You never know, you might have some Labour people that would give the SNP their vote, but we're just going to stick with the Greens just for integrity purposes. We're going to leave all the Union parties exactly the same. Right then, so let's begin. We have the votes that they've got, right? That would have taken the SNP votes. It gives them an extra 6,000 votes thereabouts onto there. So when it's divided, the 135,443 drops down to 13,544 because it's divided by 10, because that's the 9 plus 1. So we're sitting there. Right, let's go for it. Who wins the first round? Well, that would be Labour. As per usual, bit of a pattern going on there. And then the Tories, and then Labour, and then the Tories, and then the Labour. Oh, we're getting close. And then the Labour, and then the Tories. Ba-ba! Looky here. 7 unionist seats in by voting SNP 1 and 2. Shall we have a look at the conclusion for all of them? Yes, let's have a quick look. Yes, right. So, in reality on the day, there was no SNP seats and there was no Green seats. Okay? But if we had taken half of the SNP votes and gave them to the Greens, if we'd done like SNP 1, Greens 2, we would have ended up with 3 Indie seats from the 3 Green seats. If we had done 50% to the SNP, from the SNP, sorry, to another Indie party, that would have given us 2 seats. And then going right down here, 3 seats, because that's 25% going to the Indie and the Green team. And then if it was SNP 1 and 2, it would have been none there. Now, what I find very interesting about this is, in reality, the SNP campaigned on SNP 1 and 2. Alright? Now, there's no way that they have a crystal ball and can predict what the outcome of an election is going to be. Nobody knows that. We can only go with previous voting trends and then sticking them in spreadsheets like this for models to make sort of like look at a sort of what if sort of type situations. So the 2 worst case scenarios right here is reality, and then a harder SNP 1 and 2, because we ended up still with absolutely no Indie seats whatsoever. And that is truly scary.